welcome back to the Deep Dive. So if you are anything like us, or, well, like millions of people all over the world right now, you've probably hit that moment, that annual moment of intense self-reflection.
Oh, yeah. The calendar flips over.
It flips over, and with it comes that familiar, ambitious, and let's be honest, sometimes really daunting New Year's resolution list.
Mm-hmm.
And for so many of you listening, I bet one goal is sitting right there at the top, just kind of glowing with promise. This is the year I am finally going to master English.
It really is maybe the most globally impactful resolution you can make, isn't it? I mean, learning English, it promises so much. Expanded career opportunities, deeper cultural understanding.
Access to a whole world of information and connection, it's huge.
It is, and this is the big but we have to be honest about. Statistically, it's also one of the most frequently abandoned resolutions, often, before the end of January.
Exactly. And we've all been there, right? That feeling that the task is just, it's too big. Or maybe you're telling yourself you just don't have the language gene. That familiar frustration when the grammar seems impossible or when your progress just seems to grind to a halt.
And that is precisely why we're doing this deep dive today. Our whole mission here is to really unpack the source material you sent over, which meticulously looks at why learners quit.
Right.
And then use those insights to build a vibrant, sustainable strategy. We want to get way beyond that cliche of, just don't give up.
Yeah.
We want to help you turn this year into your actual English breakthrough.
And I think the crucial insight right at the start, and this really changes the whole conversation, is that failing at language learning is rarely, if ever, about a lack of native intelligence.
That's not about that at all.
Or capability.
That's right. The research is so consistent on this. When committed, capable people fail to hit their language goals, it almost always comes down to a failure in strategy, and even more critically, a failure in motive.
So the system was flawed from the very beginning.
Exactly. So we're shifting the focus. Stop worrying so much about the vocabulary list, the verb tenses, and instead put all that energy into defining why you are learning it, because that why is the only thing strong enough to fuel the marathon ahead.
Okay, so let's unpack that, this idea of a strategy failure. I think before we can start building this, this strong new vehicle for learning, we have to look at the flat tires from last time.
You have to identify the ghosts of resolutions past.
Exactly. The data we looked at is super clear about 5 common obstacles, these psychological traps that cause motivation to just completely plummet. So let's face them head on.
And understanding these traps is the prerequisite, really. If you've started and stopped before, it is highly, highly likely you ran straight into one of these universal barriers. You probably mistook it for personal failing when it was just a predictable breakdown in the strategy.
Okay, so the first barrier.
Yeah.
And this one is brutally efficient at killing motivation. It's overwhelm.
Oh, yeah.
The English language just seems vast. I mean, you're talking hundreds of thousands of words, irregular verbs that make no sense, pronunciation rules that seem to change with every other word. It feels enormous.
It's cognitive exhaustion. It's that simple. You're constantly looking at the entire mountain instead of the next step.
And the strategy failure is that the learners focus only on the deficit, right? On everything they don't know.
Precisely. You are constantly calculating how much road is left to run instead of celebrating the ground you've already covered. It's like a new runner looking at a 42-kilometer marathon and obsessing over kilometer 40.
Instead of just being proud they ran the first 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
That constant focus on the deficit, on the sheer impossibility of mastering everything, is a guaranteed, scientifically proven motivation killer. It creates a finish line that just keeps moving further away.
But hold on, for someone who is already feeling that overwhelm, isn't that just a natural feeling? I mean, how does a strategy counteract that kind of very real psychological pressure?
It's a great question. It works by shifting the metric of success. The old strategy fails when you measure progress by what's left to learn. The antidote is to pivot your focus entirely to measurable cumulative progress.
Okay.
You replace that impossible goal of total fluency with something achievable, like, I will learn 10 new words this week. You control the input, not the final, unknowable destination.
That makes sense. And speaking of speed, the second pitfall really compounds this feeling. Impatience. We are so culturally conditioned for instant gratification.
Everything on demand.
We can stream any movie instantly, get an answer to any question instantly, and we subconsciously expect language acquisition to work the same way. We forget it's a biological, neurological process. It takes time to literally wire the brain.
Impatience is a direct failure to manage expectations, really. When a learner spends, say, 20 hours on grammar and they don't feel dramatically more fluent, they often think the effort was wasted.
And that's where the strategy breaks down.
That's it. They fail to see that language ability is built through compound interest. Small, consistent steps that look invisible day to day, they compound dramatically over months. But in the moment, those little gains are just too small to satisfy that modern need for instant feedback.
So we're literally fighting our modern brains on this one. Okay, number 3, and the source material flags this as maybe the biggest structural weakness of all, lack of purpose.
This one is foundational.
The research shows these vague intentions like, I should learn English for my career, or it'd be nice to speak English. They just don't have the emotional weight, do they?
Not at all. A vague intention is fine for, I don't know, cleaning out the garage on a weekend. But learning a language demands sustained, often uncomfortable effort. It takes time and emotional vulnerability. So if the only reason you're showing up is some external pressure like everyone at work speaks English, that obligation is going to completely disintegrate the moment you hit a really complex grammar point or have a truly frustrating conversation. The purpose has to resonate internally. It has to be tied to a deep personal desire.
And that leads right into the 4th obstacle, which feels purely emotional, shame and comparison.
The big one.
In the early stages, making mistakes is not just likely, it's unavoidable, is how your brain tests the boundaries. But it is so easy to feel embarrassed about those mistakes. Or, worse, to compare your first few fragile steps against a friend who, studied abroad for 10 years.
And we all know that saying, comparison is the thief of joy. But in language learning, shame is the thief of practice.
Oh, that's good.
Shame causes silence, and silence is the absolute death of language acquisition. When you compare your Chapter 1 attempt at ordering coffee to someone else's fluent Chapter 10 debate on politics, you create this debilitating gap in your mind.
So what's the strategic shift there?
It's understanding that mistakes are not evidence of failure. They are evidence of attempting. They are the necessary friction that creates real growth.
Okay, and finally, the 5th pitfall in our strategy, boring methods.
Yes.
The joy killer.
If your whole routine is just endless, high-pressure grammar drills and copying vocabulary lists from a textbook, you are actively draining the joy and energy out of the whole experience.
It just becomes a chore. And what happens when life gets busy?
Chores are always the first thing to get cut from the schedule.
Always. It's an engagement failure. The human brain learns best when it's engaged, when it's curious, when it's emotionally invested in the content, relying only on rote memorization or formal tests. It just bypasses the power of context, of story, of genuine interest. If learning feels like a punishment, your motivation system just shuts down.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the 5 big reasons people fail. Now the antidote, the thing that forms the foundation for all future success. Finding your powerful why. And this isn't just like listing a few reasons. This is about emotional connection. Precisely. We have to move the feeling from obligation, I have to learn English, to genuine desire, I want to experience this. The whole methodology is about defining your reason in a deeply personal, tangible way. You have to push past the surface level.
So let's think about some of these specific motivations.
Yeah.
Are you trying to connect with a specific grandparent or a cousin or a friend who only speaks English? Bridging a real family communication gap. Or maybe it's purely sensory. You want to finally watch your favorite show or that historical documentary in its original language without constantly looking at subtitles. You want to experience the nuance, the real humor, the actor's intended timing.
And that desire doesn't have to be purely emotional. It could be super pragmatic and professional, opening doors at work by being able to lead complex international calls or write precise reports or negotiate in English.
Or it could be about traveling confidently. Transforming what could be a stressful trip where you're just pointing at menus and using your phone to translate into a real adventure.
Exactly. Where you can navigate a chaotic airport, confidently order some amazing regional dish, and genuinely ask a local for directions or advice.
What's fascinating to me here is that the method doesn't just stop at identifying the motive. It gives you an immediate psychological tool. The actionable step of writing that reason down,
Yes, make it visible.
putting it on your mirror, on your laptop, taping it to your desk.
This moves your why from just a fleeting thought into a physical, enduring anchor. And this isn't some self-help fluff, it's a real commitment device.
Yep.
When that inevitable overwhelm hits, when you feel impatient, or when you're just exhausted after a long day at work, seeing that core, visceral reason, I want to speak confidently with my family, or I want to land that specific promotion, that visibility is what keeps you consistent. It's the engine that protects your effort when your initial enthusiasm starts to fade.
So once that psychological anchor, that why, is firmly in place, the next critical step is to attack the fundamental mindset.
Yes, absolutely.
We talked about how many people see language study as a test or a requirement or even like some kind of intellectual punishment, and that just sucks all the energy right out of the room.
That traditional view has to be consciously confronted and then replaced with a much more empowering perspective. The new way to see it is that English isn't a hurdle to pass. It's a tool to use. It's a passport to new experiences, a whole world of discovery just waiting for you to unlock it.
That's a huge shift.
It moves the emotional burden from, I must do this to avoid failure, to, I get to do this to expand my life.
Okay, so how do we make that emotional reframing practical? Like, what are the tactics? The source material gives 3 really powerful strategies for this. The first one is non-negotiable. Celebrate small wins.
This is the direct countermeasure to that impatience pitfall we were just talking about.
Okay.
Since the results of language learning are cumulative and often sort of invisible day to day, if you wait until you're fluent to feel successful, you've pretty much guaranteed you're going to quit. You have to proactively recognize and amplify the small, daily, incremental progress.
And this is where that tangible tool comes in, the win journal. I know it sounds simple, maybe even a little silly to some people, but its psychological power is just immense.
It really is.
The idea is to jot down every single new word you actively used, or every time you understood a complex line in a movie, or every successful, even if it was a bit messy interaction you managed to get through.
That win journal serves as indisputable evidence. It counters your brain's natural tendency to focus on what you can't do.
Right.
On a really frustrating day when you feel like you've hit a wall, you can flip back and see, wait a minute, 3 weeks ago I couldn't even recognize that idiom, and today I actually used it in a sentence. That concrete proof counteracts the feeling of stagnation. It gives you the instant gratification your impatient brain is craving.
But I can hear someone thinking, I'm already overwhelmed, I'm struggling to find 10 minutes to study. Isn't adding a win journal just another chore I'm going to abandon? How do you make sure this doesn't become more administrative overhead?
That's a crucial point. The distinction is in the emotional weight. The journal isn't a study tool, it's a motivational tool.
Oh.
It doesn't need to be formal. A quick note on your phone, a single sentence. That's enough. Its purpose is to anchor a positive emotion to the learning process. It takes 2 minutes, but it completely changes your relationship with the effort from something that's a burden to something that's rewarding. You're documenting your courage, not your curriculum completion.
I love that, documenting courage.
Yeah.
Okay, the second strategy to reframe the journey is a direct attack on that boring methods pitfall. Make learning playful.
Yes, this requires a deliberate swap of formal, dry methods for enjoyable content.
You have to trick your brain into thinking it's being entertained.
Absolutely. Replace that dense grammar textbook with an engaging graphic novel you actually want to read. Ditch the formal essays and analyze the lyrics of your favorite song instead. Swap the multiple choice quizzes for, I don't know, a competitive language challenge on an app.
And the source material has some brilliant specific examples of this, like word games, using online crosswords or word searches or those gamified apps like Duolingo or Memrise. It turns vocabulary work from a chore into a puzzle.
Another great one is the music challenge. This is fantastic for integrating rhythm and intonation. You pick a new English song every week, you learn the lyrics, you try to understand the story behind it, and then you sing along. Loudly.
In the car, in the shower.
Forever. It doesn't just build vocabulary, it drastically improves your listening, your pitch, your pronunciation, and you're just enjoying your favorite music.
And you can turn a relaxing evening into structured learning with the classic movie or TV night. Watch with English audio and English subtitles on at the same time. You absorb the sound and the text together. But here's the challenge part. Right after it's over, you write a quick 100-word summary of the plot in English. Or you just talk about the characters to yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
It moves that passive knowledge you just absorbed into active recall.
The third reframing strategy is absolutely foundational. Connection is key. Language, at its very core, exists to connect human beings.
Right.
If your entire learning process is happening in isolation, you are fundamentally missing the entire point. And your motivation will suffer because you're taking away the ultimate reward, which is communication.
So this means being proactive about actionable connection. Joining low-pressure conversation groups, maybe online or in your local area.
Or those structured language exchanges where you spend 30 minutes helping a native English speaker with your language, and then they spend 30 minutes helping you with English. The mutual benefit just lowers all that performance anxiety.
And the source material highlights seeking out interest-specific communities. You mentioned gaming guilds, but this applies to anything, right?
Anything at all. If you're passionate about professional football, join an English-speaking sports forum. If you love coding or historical fashion, find a Reddit community discussing that subject in English. When the topic is something you're really interested in, the desire to communicate about your passion just overwhelms the fear of using imperfect language. It creates the perfect environment for almost effortless learning.
Okay, so once that deep belief system, the motive and the mindset is really established, the challenge then shifts from just motivation to methodology, doesn't it?
Exactly. The question becomes, how do we actually build the operational vehicle that's going to take us up the mountain efficiently?
This is where we get to the brass tacks.
Yes, we're moving from the emotional side to the practical, tactical strategies that turn those high-level intentions into demonstrable, trackable results. And the first one is crucial for cutting through that feeling of overwhelm, making goals smart.
This isn't just business jargon, is it?
Okay.
This is like the working hard of your language plan. You have to move beyond that uselessly vague goal of, I want to be fluent.
You have to. You need to define goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. This structure protects you from both the initial pitfall of overwhelm and that later one of lack of purpose.
Let's really dive into the examples here, because this is where the theory becomes practice.
Let's do.
Okay, we start with specific. So instead of saying, I want to speak better, you define a concrete, unambiguous action. For instance, hold a 5-minute conversation about my job's primary function with a native speaker. That's so clear.
It's totally clear. You know exactly what success looks like. Next is measurable. The goal has to have a number attached to it so you know, without question, when you've hit it. A great example is actively learn 10 new high-frequency words a week.
You can track that.
You can track it precisely in an app or a journal. If you can't count it, you can't track it, and your motivation system will just fizzle out.
Okay, then we have achievable. And this one requires some brutal honesty, doesn't it? About your current level and the amount of time you can realistically give.
So much honesty. If you set a goal of 4 hours of deep study every day while working a full-time job and having a family, you are setting yourself up for guaranteed failure and burnout by February.
So what's an achievable goal?
Something like, listen attentively to one English podcast episode every Sunday. Small, consistent steps will always beat impossible ambition. Every single time.
Fourth is relevant. The goal has to directly connect back to that powerful why you defined at the very beginning.
Yes. So if your motive is all about future travel, your goal shouldn't be about writing academic essays. Instead, it should be, focus all my new vocabulary on terms related to travel, dining, and navigation because I'm planning to visit the UK in 6 months. Relevance ensures the effort feels immediately useful.
And finally, time-bound. There has to be a finish line, even a temporary one, to create a sense of urgency and a clear point for celebration.
Exactly. A strong example would be, by March 31st, I want to be able to write a 200-word email detailing a recent accomplishment in English without using a translation tool. It establishes a hard deadline and a clear benchmark for you to assess yourself against.
That whole SMART structure just protects you from the emotional ups and downs of learning. Okay, so strategy number 2 in this section addresses burnout and retention. Schedule. Don't cram.
The source material is so adamant about this that temptation to cram 3 hours of studying on a Saturday afternoon is just inefficient and completely unsustainable.
Right, because cramming just creates these temporary memory spikes. It's great for passing a test tomorrow.
But it's totally useless for building lasting language fluency. Fluency needs those neurological pathways to be built and reinforced through spaced, repeated interaction over time. The real power is, in short, regular, almost painless learning moments that you integrate right into your existing routine.
The source calls these micro-cramming examples, small, low-effort engagements that maximize your downtime.
Exactly. Think about all the hidden minutes in your day. For instance, maybe you spend 10 minutes focusing on English news headlines while you eat breakfast. You're not trying to understand the whole article, just the headline and maybe underlining words you don't know.
Or your commute. Instead of just listening to music, you could dedicate 15 minutes to an English language podcast. And you're not just listening for the meaning, but really focusing on the speaker's accent and intonation.
Or even just 5 minutes reviewing flashcards on an app right before you go to sleep. That little burst right before your brain goes into deep memory consolidation mode is incredibly powerful.
And the math on that works out. If you do 3 10-minute sessions 5 days a week, that's 150 minutes of high-retention, low-stress study.
Which is so much more effective than one exhausting 3-hour marathon on a Sunday that you come to dread.
Right. Okay, strategy 3 is about sustainability. Mix it up, diversify your methods.
We know everyone learns differently. Some people are visual, some auditory, some learn by doing. If you only rely on one method, like grammar drills, you will inevitably get bored, you'll stagnate, and you'll have huge gaps in your skills. You need a blended approach that challenges your whole brain.
Diversity keeps it interesting.
It keeps it interesting, it challenges different cognitive skills, and it ensures you're hitting the full spectrum: reading, writing, speaking, and listening.
Let's run through the specific resource list the research points to, because this is a great checklist for anyone looking to diversify right now.
Okay.
For quick, gamified vocabulary with instant feedback, you've got apps like Duolingo, Babbel, and Memrise, perfect for those micro-cramming moments.
For building genuine listening comprehension, hearing the speed, the cadence, the real-world dialogue podcasts are invaluable. The source specifically flags 6-Minute English from the BBC.
Why that one specifically?
Because it's tailor-made for intermediate learners. The pace is clear and a little bit slower, the topics are accessible. It also highlights the English we speak, which focuses on idioms and everyday slang, adding that critical cultural context. They are challenging, but not overwhelming. It's the perfect balance.
Got it. And for visual learners who need clear breakdowns, the research points to expert YouTube educators. Channels like English with Lucy, who's often covers common pronunciation mistakes.
Or English Addict with Mr. Duncan. His energy and humor just make grammar concepts stick in your head in a way a textbook never could.
When it comes to reading material, again, diversification is key. You should be reading different registers, news sites for formal vocabulary, niche blogs about your hobbies for contemporary slang.
Graphic novels are great for visual support that helps with comprehension. And don't be afraid of children's books. They offer simple sentence structures and foundational vocabulary. They're a painless way to build confidence.
And crucially, we have to talk about active output. Writing practice should be low stakes. Journaling about your day, maybe, or commenting on online forums. The low pressure of writing lets you compose your thoughts before you hit post.
Which brings us right to strategy number 4. Embrace mistakes proof. You're learning. This is the tactical countermeasure to that shame and comparison pitfall. The paralyzing fear of being wrong is the single greatest inhibitor of fluency. Period.
So here's the key: reframing. Mistakes are not proof that you're failing. They're the unavoidable side effect of trying something new.
A mistake is just your brain showing you precisely where the next learning opportunity is.
To make this practical, the source suggests a specific method: the growth mindset drill. After any conversation or writing practice, you sit down and write down just 2 things. One thing I did well, and one thing to try next time.
See how the focus shifts entirely. It's about structure and growth, not about perfection. You're celebrating the courage it took to even try, and then immediately mapping a constructive path forward instead of letting that one error spiral into self-criticism and shame.
It turns a moment of vulnerability into a moment of structured, actionable reflection.
Exactly.
We have to accept a pretty fundamental psychological reality here, don't we? That initial burst of New Year's energy.
Yeah.
It's temporary.
It's a spark, not a fuel tank. If we rely only on that initial enthusiasm, we will inevitably fail. So our focus now has to shift to building a durable structure, habits, and community that can sustain the drive long after that excitement is gone. This is where the real science of motivation takes over.
That's the real trick to long-term success, isn't it? The first structural habit you're talking about really leverages human psychology. Track your progress visibly.
The motivational boost that comes from seeing your consistency is often way more powerful than seeing your knowledge gains.
How so?
Well, visual tracking activates the reward centers in your brain. You can use the streak counter in your language app, a simple wall calendar, or a habit tracker. The simple physical act of coloring in a little box for each study session, it creates a physical chain of success.
You don't want to break the chain.
Psychologically, breaking that visual chain becomes so much harder than just maintaining it. You're visualizing your consistency, which is the key metric of success here, not just how many words you learned.
The power of the chain is huge. And we also know that isolation is a motivation killer. So the second, and maybe the most enjoyable strategy, is to find your tribe.
Yes. Learning is just infinitely easier, more fun, and way less intimidating when you have support, a sense of shared struggle, and some genuine accountability.
Your tribe gives you that external push when your own internal drive is low.
It does. And we have specific community venues suggested for immediate action. Online forums like the subreddit English Learning or English Club, they offer a space where you can practice, ask for advice, and ask those embarrassing questions without any fear of judgment.
And for real-time interaction, the language exchange apps are basically non-negotiable now. Things like Tandem, HelloTalk, Speakly.
Those platforms connect you with partners all over the world, turning the abstract idea of speaking English into real-time, meaningful human communication. It's applying your learning immediately to the context it was designed for.
Okay, so you've got your tracking, you've got your tribe. Next, to reinforce those good habits, you have to reward yourself.
Yes. Hitting specific milestones, like finishing your first English graphic novel or successfully holding your first full 5-minute conversation, those things deserve a celebration. Rewards create positive reinforcement loops in the brain. They link the effort, the discomfort of studying, to a tangible, positive outcome.
Which makes you more likely to put in the effort next time.
Significantly more likely. And it's important to distinguish between the small daily rewards, like a nice cup of coffee after a microcram session, and the bigger milestone rewards.
Like buying yourself a new book or treating yourself to a movie night in English after you hit that 3-month SMART goal.
Exactly. You are systematically training your brain to associate consistent effort with pleasure, not with pain.
And finally, we have to circle back to the very foundation of this entire deep dive. Remind yourself of your why.
Yes. We set that deep personal motive, but the world is distracting. Life gets in the way. We need practical strategies to keep that foundational motive active and top of mind.
It has to be right in front of you.
It could be as simple as taping that original written motivation to your desk, but we'd also recommend setting regular, recurring reminders on your phone that just pop up and say, remember why you started this, that promotion, or remember the family connection. When daily progress feels slow or frustrating, your why is the compass that guides you past that temporary discomfort and gets you back to consistent effort.
Let's talk about the long game, because every committed learner, no matter how great their strategy is, eventually hits a wall. A plateau where progress just seems to stall completely.
It's the most demotivating moment in the journey because you're still putting in the effort, but the perceived gain just drops to zero.
So when you hit that plateau, what's going on? Is it a lack of effort?
Yeah. Usually it's not. It's a lack of variety. Your brain has adapted too well to your current way of learning. You keep using the same hammer, and the wood just stops chipping.
So the source material has methods to break through that feeling of stagnation.
It does. Concrete methods to spark new growth. The first one is really straightforward. Change your challenge.
So if you're always reading, switch to listening.
Exactly. If you're constantly reading grammar books or doing flashcards, switch modalities entirely. Focus on intensive listening practice for 2 weeks. If you only ever study alone, force yourself to join 2 speaking groups a week. Shifting the modality forces your brain to process the language in a fundamentally new way. It breaks the rut.
The second strategy sounds really powerful for cementing knowledge. Teach others.
It's so effective. Explaining a grammar rule or clarifying a new idiom to a fellow learner who's at a lower level, it forces you to clarify your own understanding in a structured, accessible way.
If you can explain it, you really know it.
If you can logically explain it to someone else, it moves that knowledge from passive storage in your brain to active, retrievable mastery, and it gives you an immediate and powerful confidence boost.
Then there's the short-term push, the 30-day challenge.
Instead of vaguely studying everything, you pick a short-term, intensive focus. Maybe it's 30 days dedicated exclusively to mastering one tricky verb tense or focused vocabulary for your specific job.
Or maybe just writing a daily blog post for a month.
Right. You track the effort meticulously for those 30 days, and you celebrate finishing regardless of how perfect it was.
And finally, there's a big one. Embrace native content.
This is the leap. It's often difficult, it's frustratingly fast, but tackling real conversations, authentic news articles, or movies made for native speakers. That's what builds real-world competence. It prepares you for the rhythm, the slang, the speed of the language as it's actually used, not the sanitized version in a textbook.
And that leap in difficulty brings us right to the power of harnessing modern technology. I mean, we are truly in a golden age for language learners right now.
We really are. The digital resources available now can address every single challenge we've discussed, from fear of speaking to tracking your progress.
The biggest game changer is probably the rise of sophisticated AI-powered tutors.
Oh, absolutely. These apps use advanced AI to give you instant, targeted feedback on your grammar. They can refine your pronunciation with an accuracy that old software could never touch, and most importantly, they let you simulate conversations in a totally low-risk environment.
So you can practice a job interview dialogue without the fear of judgment?
Exactly. Or practice ordering a complex meal at a restaurant, all without the slightest anxiety about a real person hearing you.
Technology also allows for radical customizing content. Traditional learning was one size fits all, wasn't it?
A textbook for everyone. Now, platforms let you pick topics that are intensely relevant to you. If you're a chef, you can tailor your vocabulary lessons entirely to kitchen terminology. If you're obsessed with pop culture, you can focus only on trending news. That high relevance just maximizes your retention.
And social learning platforms have just exploded. These apps connect you with people all over the world for real-time conversation almost instantly.
It turns the whole world into your personalized 24-hour classroom. It just removes all those geographical barriers that used to make consistent live practice almost impossible.
There's also a simple but powerful tool for self-assessment: voice and video journaling.
Yes. Recording yourself speaking English, maybe just summarizing your day or practicing a presentation and then listening back, it builds crucial self-awareness. You can audibly track how much your accent is improving and your fluency is strengthening over time. It gives you that visual or audible track of the compound progress we talked about earlier. We have to keep reiterating that learning a language is an intensely personal journey. It strips away your confidence, it exposes your vulnerability, and it brings up all these feelings of fear, pride, shame.
And ignoring that emotional side is just a guaranteed path to quitting, isn't it? Because your internal critic just gets louder and louder.
Louder than any external encouragement. So the first step in navigating this emotional minefield is to recognize negative self-talk. Those little internal phrases like, "I'll never get this," or "I sound so slow and awkward." They're poisonous because they undermine your courage to even try.
So you have to challenge those thoughts.
Immediately and systematically, the methodology suggests a powerful test. Just stop and ask yourself, would I ever say that exact sentence to a friend who is struggling with the same thing?
And the answer is always no.
It's always no, so you have to stop accepting it from yourself. It forces you to be more gentle and patient with your own progress.
And we need to consciously reframe mistakes again, viewing every slip-up not as a failure, but as a necessary step towards mastery.
You have to celebrate the courage it took to open your mouth and attempt communication in the first place. You shift the focus onto the effort, which you can control, rather than perfection, which is an illusion anyway.
And finally, it's critical to seek encouragement.
Yes. Share your goals and your struggles with supportive people, other learners, a patient teacher, a trusted friend. On those really difficult days when you feel utterly frustrated, they can be your external memory bank. They can remind you of the concrete progress you've already made. They are the objective evidence against your own self-doubt.
Now let's talk about why this journey is worth all that emotional effort. Embracing cultural exploration. Language learning gets reduced to grammar so often, but it's actually an immersive discovery of a whole new world, a new perspective.
If you just approach English as a system of rules, you miss the context. And the context is essential for true understanding and, crucially, for retention. You need to explore the cultural areas where the language truly lives.
Like traditions, for example. How do New Year's celebrations differ in the UK versus the US versus Australia? Understanding those social nuances gives you immediate, relevant context for vocabulary and idioms. It makes the words stick because they're tied to a memory.
Or think about food. Try an English or American recipe. Then describe the ingredients, the steps, the taste, the result, all in English. It combines a hands-on activity with specific tactile vocabulary. It anchors the words physically.
Idioms and humor.
Yeah.
That's like the soul of the language, right?
It really is.
Yeah.
What makes people laugh in different English-speaking countries? Understanding humor is often the final frontier of fluency, and exploring it just makes the learning process infinitely more rewarding and fun.
And of course, literature and art. Engaging with the classics, but also with what's currently trending in English-speaking media. Reading a popular contemporary novel or following influential artists.
It gives you cultural insight and immediate relevant things to talk about. Engaging with the culture provides the richness and really the why for all that sustained effort.
To bring all these strategies to life, the source provides some incredibly inspiring case studies. These are concrete examples of ordinary people achieving extraordinary progress. They show that this framework isn't just theoretical, it really works.
And these case studies offer such vital validation. They show you don't need some special genetic gift or endless free time to succeed. You just need a clear motive and a consistent, adaptable strategy.
Let's start with Deepa's story. Confidence unlocked. Deepa's powerful why was purely professional. She needed English to qualify for a promotion at her company. She started small to fight the overwhelm, reading news headlines, watching short sitcoms,
And writing one short, low-pressure email each day to a fictional address, just for practice. She admitted she made mistakes and felt that shame, but because her efforts were consistent and visible, her supervisor noticed her courage.
and her breakthrough wasn't achieving perfect grammar.
Not at all. It was the realization that English is about communication, not faultless grammar. By consistently applying those small daily actions, she not only got the promotion, but started confidently leading calls with demanding U.S. clients within a year. She replaced her shame with communication courage.
Next up, Miguel's journey. Movies and music as teachers. Miguel was the classic example of someone failing because of the boring methods pitfall. He just hated formal grammar. His powerful why was his passion for English rock music and Hollywood movies.
So he completely rejected the traditional textbook methods and made learning playful. He spent hours translating complex song lyrics, studying the rhythm of the delivery, and mimicking his favorite actors.
His vocabulary just grew naturally because it was anchored to his passion.
Exactly. And that interest-based, fearless learning led him to travel without fear and form friendships all over the world. Miguel proved that if the process is fun, the effort feels negligible.
And finally, Aya's leap. Overcoming embarrassment. Aya had a strong formal English education, but was completely crippled by the shame and comparison pitfall. She was terrified of saying or typing the wrong thing in public.
So she found her community. She joined a global video game guild. At first, she just read the high-speed chat, too afraid to type anything. But eventually, driven by the desire to coordinate with her team, she started typing. Errors and all.
And the community didn't judge her.
They didn't. They clarified her meaning and they celebrated her attempts. Her confidence just skyrocketed. It proved to her that the language was a vital connection tool, not a grammar test. She overcame her internal critic through positive peer reinforcement.
These stories really show that the shift from burden to adventure, from fear to communication, is absolutely achievable for anyone listening. So, how do we launch this journey right now?
The source concludes with a really powerful, simple action template. It's a 7-step framework to launch and sustain your New Year, New Motive journey. This is your personal launch checklist for the year.
Okay, step 1. Define your WHY. Write it down right now. Make it honest, personal, and emotionally strong enough to pull you through the tough days.
2. Set a 3-month goal. Choose one specific, realistic, and exciting goal that meets all the SMART criteria. Make it a celebration point on your calendar.
3. Pick your methods. List at least 3 varied, diversified ways to learn. Don't rely on just one. Make sure you have active components like speaking and writing, alongside passive ones like reading and listening.
4. Schedule learning. Slot those regular, short microsessions directly into your calendar. Treat them like non-negotiable appointments. Remember, consistency over volume.
5. Find your community. Join a group, an app, or a class immediately. Get that vital support, that sense of shared struggle and accountability.
6. Track and reward progress. Use a visual tracker to see your consistency chain grow, and plan those small self-rewards for hitting your milestones.
And 7. Reflect and recalibrate. Every month, take a moment for an honest assessment. What's working? What needs to be adjusted or swapped out? And celebrate every single win you wrote down in that win journal. So we've reached the end of this deep dive, and the core insight, I think, is really clear. This year is about fundamentally changing your relationship with the language. It's about finding a motive that's powerful enough to sustain your effort when that initial excitement inevitably fades. It's about recognizing that fluency isn't some final destination you arrive at. It's a living mosaic that you build, piece by tiny, consistent piece.
You have to fall in love with the process, the effort, the curiosity, the challenge, the small daily progress, not just the distant outcome of fluency. Every small, consistent step you take is an undeniable victory over the inertia that might have stalled you in the past.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now?
I want you to picture yourself 1 year from now. You chose your powerful why. You built that smart structure. You embraced your mistakes and you found your tribe. Every single lesson, every awkward misstep, and every successful communication you managed this year has fundamentally changed your cognitive landscape.
Wow.
You're now reading books, understanding movies, and interacting professionally in a way you couldn't even imagine 12 months ago. The version of yourself you're becoming, word by hard-won word, day by day, is already worth celebrating. The deliberate journey, not the abstract destination, is what defines your breakthrough. Go make this year your English adventure.